Hare Krishna. So welcome to the seminar called The Power of Inner Dialogue. This seminar I consider to be extremely important for every individual who wants to be successful, whether spiritually or materially. And the inspiration and maybe one of the main tools for this seminar is the verse from the Bhagavad Gita 17:15. And this verse is, do you have the Gita there?
Yes.
Can you find it and open it? It's a German Gita.
I have in English here.
Yeah, okay, so you can open German, you can open English. 17:15. So can you please read this verse, Prabhuji?
With Sanskrit?
You can read Sanskrit too, yes. Anudvega karam vakyam.
Yes. Anudveda karam vakyam satyam priyahitam chaya svadaya vyasyanam chaya vanmayam tapa uchate. Translation: austerity of speech consists in speaking truthfully and beneficially, and in avoiding speech that offends. One should all recite the Vedas regularly.
Okay. So this is, in one sense, you can say that these are instructions for communication. Krishna's instructions. It says it's austerity, but actually if you do it, it becomes a pleasure. This whole thing about speaking truthfully, pleasant, beneficial, then reciting Vedic literature is definitely a pleasure, and not agitating to others. Now, how is this important for our today's discussion, our today's topic? The same thing you can apply to talking to yourself. The same thing you can apply to your inner dialogue, to your inner conversation, to your self-talk. And we can call the self-talk, we can call the self-talk also thinking. But thinking is actually inner dialogue. You talk to yourself, you explain things to yourself. So in some of the, I would say, mundane experts, they say that what is your explanatory style? It's better if you can sit all on this side. You don't have to break your neck looking at me. So they sometimes ask, if you go for a consultation, they would ask you a question, what is your explanatory style? What does that mean? It means that when something happens, how do you explain it to yourself? How do you talk to yourself about it? For example, close your eyes for a second, and I will tell you something, one sentence, and then you will have a minute to explain to yourself how do you understand what I said. Outside is a beautiful, sunny, tropical day. So just explain to yourself this statement. Most of you are very serious, except one. Teresa is smiling. Okay, let's see now. Can you please share how did you explain to yourself this statement that you know is not true? Okay, Teresa, because you are smiling, we are first.
I saw how I was walking through the forest and the heat on my skin and the sun were shining.
Oh, so you didn't your mind didn't object that this is actually not true? No, okay, so you're very maybe poetic or creative imagination. Okay, anybody else? What? You?
Also mentioned that at the beach with the sea.
You also didn't think it's not true. How many of you thought it's not true?
Also,
Yes.
of course, I thought it's not true, but I think it was an
Like a visualization
Yes,
exercise.
yeah.
Yeah.
Exercise. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Anybody else? Yeah.
It was true only with the one, not with the one word, tropical, because it's beautiful sunny day, but not tropical, and I just
Switzerland is
it's,
not tropical.
Yeah, and for me it was like mismatching my consciousness with
Yeah.
something
Okay.
is.
Okay, let's go to everyone. You?
I was somewhere like a rainforest because of the word tropical, so I was also there.
We were together.
The sun
Okay.
wet.
Nice. Okay.
I visualized a forest, but on the mountains, and you see the beach very far away down there, and a breeze and that very hot weather. That's, I don't like it.
Okay, and you?
I was on the beach as well, and there was palm trees, and I was closing my eyes, and I was feeling the sun, the heat on my skin. So yeah,
What is your name?
Radhika.
Radhika. Oh, welcome, Radhika. May Radhika bless you also.
Thank you.
Right. So it seems that maybe, I don't know, you can correct me, but it seems that the word tropical created similar pictures in your mind, and your explanation, it seemed to be quite similar. So that's, in this case, it's a similarity that is a characteristic. But as you know, many people can explain the same thing in different ways. For example, if I stand here and I look at number 6, and you stand there and you look at number 6, you see what?
9.
You see number 9. So depending on the angle of the position, you actually see a different thing. Or you know this famous picture from psychology where you have some spots, some like a shape, and many people see a young girl, but some people see an old lady. And it's the same picture. It just, you maybe amplify a little bit some of the spots, and you get a completely different impression and different explanation. So how do you explain to yourself what is happening to you right now, especially if you have trouble? It's very important. How do you talk to yourself about it? How do you explain this to yourself? Different challenges that you might face, how do you explain it to yourself? So what we want to, impress upon you or recommend you is that you explain to yourself what happens to yourself based on the spiritual knowledge, based on the Bhagavad Gita, based on seeing through the eyes of the scriptures. So now we are coming to the also this interesting tool or approach is that how will you talk to yourself depends also on how you see things. What is your perception? So I sometimes say that you need to put on Gita glasses. So only one of you here wears glasses at the moment. But when you put Gita glasses, this means you actually try to look through the eyes of the Gita. Imagine you have a problem and you take this book and you know what is in this book, more or less. If you don't know what is in this book, you can open it and read what's inside. And you can start to get an amazing spiritual perspective where you will look at anything through the eyes of this book, or in the broader sense, Vedic literature. This is the essence of Vedic literature. And I had, when I was in Peru, in South America. My first visit was there in 2011 or 9, maybe 11. It doesn't matter. So I had some seminars, some classes, and a lot of individual sessions, and people were coming to me for conversation, consultation. They spoke about their problems, about their goals. And towards the end of the day, I was becoming a little bit tired. And then I was thinking, how can I still help them with using the least amount of energy, which slowly I am running out of? So, because I do type of personal assistance which is called Gita coaching. I always have Bhagavad Gita on my table during the session. Or at least I used to have it. And sometimes we use it in some ways. So sometimes they can open it and just point randomly and look if this is relevant to their problem. And often it is, almost always. But at some point, I didn't ask them to look through the eyes of the Gita at their problem, but I asked them to put the Gita on their ear. And they would have amazing realizations. It seems like they would get some extra intelligence by doing this simple physical thing. They didn't even open it. Sometimes they would say, oh, I hear that I'm in illusion or something, or that I'm attached. So it's like, it's amazing just by touching it or putting it on your ear. But what to speak if you know what's inside and if you try to look through the eyes of the Gita? To me, based on my lifetime experience, the source of practically 99.99 problems in our lives is actually not the circumstances or other people, but how do we talk about it to ourselves? How do we explain it? What is my self-talk about what just happened to me? And based on the self-talk, you have certain inner or outer reaction, and based on this, you have the feelings and the further thoughts. You have the desire to do something, to take action. It's all based on this inner dialogue. And the good news is that you can take charge of your inner dialogue. And this is why we are here today. You can take charge of your inner dialogue, but one thing that is extremely important to understand, it's very simple to understand, it's very hard to do, and this is this. This is the greatest success secret that anyone can share with you, and it's called daily practice. So no skill you can master in a day, no skill you can master in one seminar or one workshop by practicing. You need to commit to practice every day. Therefore, this seminar should be like a springboard for you to start doing something on a daily basis. Your success in utilizing what you learn today depends on what you do after this seminar. Here we can have nice time. I will bring you maybe some sweets a little bit later, some stickers for inspiration. But if you want to benefit from this knowledge and experience that I share with you, you need to practice every day. Otherwise, it will remain 1 or 2 hours that you spent, maybe nice memory, maybe not nice memory, but you will not benefit. So whatever you learn, if you want to benefit from it, I know you know this, but still, you need to do it, that you need to apply it if you want to benefit from it. And so how do we apply things that we learn? Let's have an example of our japa, daily japa. After some time, it becomes a routine. After some time, it becomes mechanical. After some time, it becomes very shallow or superficial. let me just finish, and then we say, I don't have a taste for chanting. It doesn't work with me. Maybe this is not my religion. Maybe this is not my process of self-realization, etc., etc. So why we don't get results? Because we don't take full advantage of practicing, properly, in practicing in a high quality way. And this is why we have seminars, we have workshops, we have classes, sessions that help us to renew our enthusiasm and our understanding on how to apply, for example, the instruction of chanting japa every single day. Japa is a mantra meditation, for those of you who don't know, and you can get better results from chanting japa if you do it properly, if you do it in a better way, more enthusiastic, more sincere, more properly. For example, I recommend to devotees who are not sure if they are chanting properly to record themselves. Everybody has a smartphone. It's very easy to record. And sometimes devotees send me their recording because they are not sure. They hear their own chanting and they think it's okay. Then when I hear it, I tell them you skipped syllable here, and they say, "Oh yes, yeah, now I understand that." I tell them the exact second or time where they skip, and they hear and they say, "Oh, I swallowed it." So there is so many ways if you want to improve something. If you're sincere about it, how you can do it. And this thing about measuring or checking is very powerful, very powerful. If you want to get successful in any area of life, measure it. This is maybe a little bit like a male approach to success in life, but it's important and it works, and it will bring you better results. So, perception, Shastra Chakshu, Shastra Jnana Chakshusha, looking through the eyes of the scripture is very important. It will help us to have a better inner dialogue. Another thing that affects your inner dialogue is your self-image. How do you perceive yourself? So if you perceive yourself as a victim, your inner dialogue will be always in that mood. Poor me. If you perceive yourself as better than others, you will always criticize others, and your inner dialogue will be very critical. If you perceive yourself as a failure or a bad person, maybe someone has ingrained this in you, maybe parents or teachers, that they tell you you're bad, and your inner dialogue, even after chanting for 15 years or 10 years, your inner dialogue is still, I'm bad. Now I was bad in school, I was bad in relationships, I was bad in sports. Now I'm bad in chanting, I'm bad in sadhana, I'm bad in reading, I'm bad in sankirtan, I'm bad in cooking, I'm bad in always negative inner dialogue, NID, negative inner dialogue. Yes.
We can questioning at the end or during the seminar?
I will ask for questions. I just speak a little bit. I will ask a question, but we can have more frequent, not only. But if you write it down, it's good. More frequent than just at the end. So, as you know, the beginning of change is awareness. If you start to become aware of whatever you want to change, including the inner dialogue. So if you start, you can observe your inner dialogue. You can close your eyes for a second and try to see what is going on in your mind, what kind of thoughts. Just at this very moment. Let us do it all together. Okay, I think that's enough for a couple of thoughts. So, anybody wants to share what you have observed? What kind of thoughts? If they are not like shocking or something.
No one.
When I was younger, I had very bad thinking myself, and it took me a very long time to change that, to be aware that the thinking is not me, and I am under control of this thinking.
Excellent.
And I had like many insecurities, and thanks to Krishna consciousness, I could change that, because I see myself now as something he wanted me to be. He wanted me to have this way, and I can use all that he gave me in his service. And in this way I can do it in love, with awareness. And when you do something in awareness, then it's beautiful.
Okay.
No matter if it's
Very nice.
perfect.
How Krishna consciousness helped you to become aware that you are not your thoughts?
That's a good question. Because I could divide all that there is. I could divide the body from the mind, and the mind has its intellects, and then you have your senses, and you have the emotions, and you have the soul, you have the paratma.
You don't have the soul.
I am the soul, sorry, but if you look at it at what it is.
Yeah, so you have the body, you have the mind.
Exactly. And this way I could divide and see it with clear eyes.
Okay. Well, the beginning of taking charge of your inner dialogue, if you understand that you are not those thoughts. And one great discovery or realization that we can have is that I can choose what I think, I can choose how I feel, and I can choose what I desire. And this also requires practice. It doesn't come overnight. So if some strange thought, nowadays you have teachers who are not even Krishna conscious, like Byron Katie. Her whole system is based on 4 questions, and these questions question the mind. Is it true? The mind says something discouraging, negative, critical, and you say, is this true? Then the mind says, yes, it's true. Then the next question is, are you absolutely certain this is true? Sometimes the mind says yes, sometimes no. And then even if the mind says yes, she asks, who would you be without that thought? Or how would you feel without that thought? And then you say, I would feel great, because I don't like these negative thoughts. And then the last question is, I forgot what was the last question. There is 4 questions. So completely in 4 steps, completely turn around negative thinking into positive one. So if you observe, you as a soul are more powerful than the mind. So that means you are powerful than the 3 functions of the mind, and 3 functions of the mind are
Thinking,
feeling and
willing.
willing, desire. Yeah, thinking, feeling, and willing. Srila Prabhupada described this. Another 2 functions of the mind are sankalpa and vikalpa, acceptance and rejection. So whatever we see, we either accept it or reject it. We either like it or we don't like it. So there is these 3 and then these 2 functions of the mind. And we can spiritualize them, we can use them really in a really, beneficial way for ourselves, if we understand that we are more powerful than the mind. We also have, the soul has a spiritual mind, and this is what we want to access the spiritual mind, and we want to think with the spiritual mind, we want to feel with the spiritual mind and heart, and we want to desire with the spiritual mind and intelligence. And this also requires practice. And of course, chanting Hare Krishna purifies our mind. We have more access to our spiritual mind. or the mind becomes spiritualized. And these three functions we can actually make completely spiritual. It requires practice. Reading aloud Shastra helps a lot, because then your mind becomes filled with the spiritual content. I listen to Srila Prabhupada's lectures daily. I listen daily to his classes, and you have no idea how many things you can hear that are so inspiring, so impressive, and that you didn't find in the books. But there in his lectures, sometimes in conversation, he says amazing things. Sometimes you hear what Prabhupada said in the remembrances of his disciples, something you felt is true for a long time, but you never heard it from him. And when you hear it from him, it's a confirmation. And if you want to develop a high-class inner dialogue, listen to Srila Prabhupada. Read his books, listen to his classes, conversations, and read his letters. In his letters you can see how he personally deals with people. How he thinks about people, how he is grateful to people, how he is very dutiful in his answering his letters. He always mentions the date, he always thanks the person. He always say, I noted the content carefully. So he acknowledges the value of someone's communication. It's a basic culture which we don't always do. In my life, I try to practice always thanking everyone for every little thing that they have done for me. Because I feel if I would die, I would regret that I haven't thanked people who have done something for me. Even small thing. And even if someone thanks you, at least I feel bad if someone thanks me and I don't acknowledge it by saying you're welcome or it's my pleasure. I feel I have not completed communication and I have not done everything I can in this communication. So there is small things that we can practice, but over time they really build you up as a very positive and spiritual person, and you can feel yourself the benefits of this kind of approach. So now you can ask your question, and then I will look at some other points. Or anybody, if you have some questions so far about what we have discussed.
When we have bad feelings from ourselves, from a bad action that we make, what to do to overcome this problem that we have?
This is a wonderful question.
Feeling guilty.
Yes, feeling guilty.
Feeling guilty about past mistakes,
Yes.
about past misdeeds. Yes, so the first thing is that you should not stay in the past. You should not live forever and beat yourself up because of what you have done, because you cannot change the past.
But when other people are sad because the action that you made affects other people and they are suffering, for example.
If you have affected others, you can apologize, you can ask for forgiveness, but you should not dwell on it forever. Now, very important lesson from past mistakes is that you become very determined not to repeat them. Because if you are repeating the same mistake again and again, which harms others and harm yourself, you are not being very intelligent. You are not helping yourself and others. So it's important not to repeat them. We sincerely regret our mistakes. Sometimes Prabhupada says, repent. In Christianity we have this, repention. So we feel sorry about something, but to keep with yourself this feeling of guilt forever will not help you or will not help others. So we need to be very careful not to repeat the same mistakes. And if we make a mistake again, we should apologize. But if we repeat the same mistake again and again, or for example, harm the same person again and again, this person will completely lose their trust in us. Because apologizing is not enough. The best apology is changed behavior. So that means, from now on, And I have some other techniques which you will laugh about, but they work. Once, I'm a coach, motivational speaker, trying to be positive person, trying to be spiritual. So once, of course, it's most difficult with your closest relationships. And once my wife caught me being negative, because she was being negative and I also became negative. And then she said, "Oh, why are you negative? You are Mr. Positive." She wasn't sounding so arrogant. She was more humble, but it was the content. And I said, "Oh, really? Okay, next time I'm negative, I will give you £10. At that time, £10 in the UK was something. It was 15 years ago. I mean, not too big, but this is what I could afford with my wage. And it happened once, and I never did it again. So now £10 is not so much. This is why I recommend to my students and clients a higher amount. So I just published on Facebook recently how to manage your harsh speech, or related to this, your anger. If you catch yourself using harsh words, send me €50. If this doesn't work, send me 100. And I'm sure next time when you have an urge, you have irresistible urge to speak harshly, to get angry, you will scratch your head and say, "Oh, this will cost me €100. So better I control myself." So this also can work. I mean, it helped me with my wife. It helped me to stop with this habit. And it doesn't matter if other people are negative. If we commit to being positive or to not agree to get into the quarrel, then we can actually control our mind and control our speech, our tongue. So this is one thing you can do, also to not repeat. But you should try to apologize as sincere as you can, or ask for forgiveness as sincere as you can. And the best apology from you will be change behavior. You don't repeat it. Then you can do another thing. You can positively invest. You can try to do something for them, something positive. You can try to do some good things for them, give them gifts, support, love, whatever. And in this way, you are going in plus in the trust bank account in a relationship. The most important in a relationship is trust, building trust. Okay.
Thank you.
Now we have a lot to do. A whole list. Any other question or comment?
I was just going to ask, can you repeat those two other things, two other parts of the mind you said?
That you what?
So you said there was three parts of the mind, the thinking, feeling,
And willing.
and then you said there was two other parts.
Sankalpa and vikalpa, acceptance and rejection. It's a functions. So the function of the mind is to accept and reject.
Take decisions.
Yes. If the mind is under the influence of the material senses, it will make a decision in their favor. For example, if the senses tell the mind you should enjoy this sinful activity, the mind will agree if the senses are stronger. But if your mind is spiritualized, the mind will question this proposal and reject it.
Okay.
And this also requires practice. So what I like to call my coaching is coaching without easy answers. Why? Because it's all based on practice. I don't promise any instant success. I promise what you have seen on the floor, daily push-ups. With the mind, with the body, with intelligence, in every aspect of life, we have to practice to get better.
I have to go because I have to prepare for the altar.
You have a service.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming so far. I hope it was useful for you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Enjoy. Any other question about what we have discussed so far about the inner dialogue?
Should we stop inner dialogue? Or
Huh?
should we stop in trial?
You can't stop inner dialogue. You always have some questions and answers in your mind. So you can try to change the quality of your inner dialogue. And now, as I said, the way you see yourself, if you see yourself as the body, your inner dialogue will be influenced by this. If you see yourself as the soul, your inner dialogue will be influenced by this. If you see yourself as a servant, your inner dialogue will be influenced by this. If you see yourself as a controller and enjoyer, again, your inner dialogue will be influenced by this. So it depends how you see yourself. If you see yourself as eternal servant of Krishna, then you will have a high quality spiritual inner dialogue. And but one important thing I want to stress, underscore, asterisk, you can choose what you think, you can choose how you feel, and you can choose what you desire. And one small little proof of our own power over our own, how do we feel, because feelings are so important in people's lives, both men and women, is that simply by changing the posture of your body, you can change the way you feel. So please stand up. Raise your hands and try to be depressed in this position. It's not easy, isn't it, to be negative?
It's in the mind, so.
Even in the mind, you can try. Imagine you want to fight with someone, quarrel, and you have your arms up, and you say, you're so negative, and they say, and you are so positive because your hands are up. So now, do this Swami step, keep your arms up, and try to double your depression. Double your negativity, double your negative feeling.
Not possible.
You are smiling. Okay, continue doing this, start chanting Hare Krishna and try to triple your depression. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. You can sit down. You are very bad students of depression yoga. You have not manifested any depression that I asked you. So this is just, changing the posture of the body. Or you try to be depressed when walking like this. Try to be depressed. It's impossible. So therefore we also recommend dancing if you want to change the way you feel. But imagine if you train your mind to be wise, to be Gitaized, to be Krishnaized, you become completely unbreakable. Nothing can shake you. Bhagavad Gita mentions that one who has experienced samadhi, he becomes unshakable. Then Krishna book explains that the greatness of a man is seen how he is able to tolerate provoking situations. And we see so many examples of saintly personalities having amazing reactions in difficult situations. So you can become like that. And also it depends on the inner dialogue. How do you talk to yourself about what just happened? Like Haridas Thakur was beaten in 22 marketplaces. So can you imagine what he was telling himself? He was actually praying for these people. He was praying. Jesus, he was praying for his tormentors. He was praying for them. Imagine this inner dialogue. If somebody, even after 20, 30 years of chanting, 35 years of chanting, somebody tells me I'm ugly, I might get disturbed. Okay, I might say, well, thank God I'm not this body. but or somebody, okay, ugly maybe not, but if they tell me you're stupid, oh. So we can still see how we identify with the body, identify with the intelligence, and identify with some image or something. But somebody whose mind is spiritual, they will not be affected by these things. Or they will say, yes, tell me more. I'm worse than that. You are being too soft on me. So maybe they're a little bit masochistic or like martyr-like. But the person who has this spiritual inner dialogue and the positive inner dialogue, they will not be very much disturbed, or they will not be disturbed at all. Okay, so let me see. I have this choice map ready. I will explain to you shortly, but let me see if I haven't missed anything else. Yeah, okay. How do you want to talk to yourself? Maybe you never ask yourself this question. And I have a couple of recommendations, but you can ask yourself this question and get to a conclusion yourself. How do you want to talk to yourself? As whom? And I recommend that you talk to yourself as a coach. Why? Because coach always sees potential in you. He's always positive about you. He always wants to support you. He likes your success. He likes you to succeed. So if you start talking to yourself like this will be very powerful. Now, it doesn't mean you become lenient. It means a healthy balance between being strict with yourself and lenient with yourself. And I will give it a little bit more, like 51% strictness, 49% leniency. A little bit on the side of strictness, it's good. It's to stretch. Maybe you like to talk to yourself as your mother talked to you. Maybe she spoke to you like this, very loving, caring, but also, if needed, a little bit strict. You find a role model, you find a person in your life whose communication you liked, and you can communicate with yourself in this way. You can talk to yourself in this way. Now, I want to discuss a little bit in relation to these modern concepts. Recently, we had a podcast with Keshava Madhava Prabhu and Bhakti Sanya. They are also trained professional coaches about self-help concepts from the point of view of Krishna consciousness. And if you want, this is available on my Facebook, actually on my G Drive, a Google Drive, a link where you can download it.
What's the title? On Facebook?
I can send you. You just send me a request. I'll send you the link of the drive. You don't even have to go to my Facebook. It's on the Gita Coaching group. I think maybe it's also on my... No, it's on the Gita Coaching group, which is... you need to be a member, I think, to access it. But I can send you where you can download it. So we discussed this, and we discussed different buzzwords or phrases like I love myself, I like myself, I forgive myself, I'm good. Recently I get to know about one lady whose motto is I'm enough. This means I'm good enough. I'm enough. And with this she's making miracles. Even people cure their legs with repeating this affirmation. Because most of the problems that people have are based on the thought, I'm not good enough. I'm not enough. And she discovered this, I'm enough. And in our Krishna consciousness, we have, statements like, I'm worst of the worst. So it's not very motivational, inspirational. I don't want to mention these different insects or animals. So how can we understand that Krishnadas Kaviraj, who created a masterpiece called Chaitanya Charitamrita? Where is Chaitanya Charitamrita? Yeah, who created a masterpiece that he can have such a negative perception of himself, such a low perception. So sometimes I'm joking, but actually I'm not joking, but people, they want to address me with something, he's this or he's that, and then I write his lowness, Akruradas. Because we are learning to be, to be more humble than the straw and the street, more tolerant than a tree. But I don't believe that pure devotees hate themselves. And there is, in the scriptures, there is some statements where they say, oh my Lord, I'm your pure devotee, or I'm your this, and I'm your that, I'm your dear devotee. And, you can see that they don't hate themselves. But you can have like a low opinion of yourself because you still feel and see you have some imperfections, but at the same time you can be very positive, very powerful, very spiritual, and use this kind of self-criticism for progress, not for beating yourself up or letting yourself down. So now, one thing we discussed is if you speak about self in any context, the first question is, what is the self? Which self do you are loving and you liking? Are you loving your real self, or you are loving your false self, which is a false ego? So we make this distinction. Which self are you like? First find out what is the self, then you can have self-esteem, self-this, self-confidence, self-this and self-that. But if your self-esteem or self-confidence is based on the false ego, false identity, then it will not bring you good results. So this is one thing to think about. So how do you want to talk to yourself? As your father, as your mother, as your coach, as your best friend? And make sure whoever you choose, that they are not too strict and they are not too lenient. There has to be some middle, and it's always good to be a little bit on the strict side, but to have a balance is very important. To be objective, to try to see objectively, even you're being subjective, but you want to be objective about your situation. And when you talk to yourself, I'm strict with myself, I say, okay, what are you doing now? Why are you wasting time? And then I do like this, oh yeah, you're right. And usually my mind tells me, because I'm teaching so much, it says, okay, remember what you tell people in seminars? Why aren't you practicing now? And I think one thing I like to say very often is, you are not only what you post on Facebook. You are what you are doing when no one is looking. So be honest with yourself. And if you have someone you can speak very openly about your darkest secrets or about your greatest weaknesses, and this person is confidential, then you can actually maybe address them and develop a strategy. You can do it alone also, but with someone it may be more powerful. Why? Because you can report to them. With habits, very healthy. I do it every day. With habits, very healthy to report to someone. Have you walked? Have you chanted? Have you avoided food that is not healthy for you? Have you been nice to people? Have you been tolerant and patient? Have you been assertive when needed? This means sometimes you shouldn't be nice. You should be strict because people could take advantage of your kindness. Have you done that? Oh no, then they will not like me, or they will say you're making offenses. Sometimes you have to stand up and say this is not right. If you are convinced. And you should be convinced when you know what is Shastra saying. So whoever you choose, make sure this person or this kind of a communication is helpful for your success. And I'm leaving it for the end. I have amazingly powerful tools for inner dialogue. But do you have any questions regarding these last points?
I was going to say, I don't really talk to myself through someone else. I talk to myself as a person who I want to be, who I aim to be,
Okay.
not really through family or friends. I'm happy with myself, but I still aim to get better in all aspects. So is that okay?
Yeah.
As yourself, but someone who you want to be. That's okay.
If you talk to yourself as your best self, that is the best. You can also, if you can, sometimes have experience of hearing the super soul, if you want, because the super soul is our best friend. So if you can hear the super soul, you don't even have to talk to yourself, just listen to him and follow what he says. Thank him. So thank you so much for this great suggestion. But if you can access your best self, the whole purpose of coaching is to actually access your best self and to engage your best self. And there is best self even there, which is full of potential, full of knowledge, eternal, full of bliss, and we can access it by Krishna's mercy if we use the knowledge from the scriptures and if we practice.
I was listening to a lecture from Radhanath Swami Prabhu, and he said that guilt is actually a feeling which is coming from the super soul. So
Okay.
actually, when you feel guilt in yourself and you cannot put it somewhere, it's coming from the super soul, like telling you, hey, you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So feeling of guilt can be used for your success. Because if you understand, the feeling of guilt is there because I have either done something wrong or I'm doing something wrong, then it's the time to think about it very deeply or talk to someone about it and then change it. Like this. Just a second, just one thought escaped. Some teachers will tell you don't feel guilty and things like that, but the nature God has created the feeling of guilt so that we can actually work on ourselves. So we can use it for our success. Aha, now I remember. Please remember, I want to share this, I will forget it. I sometimes say use ignorance for your success. How? How we can use ignorance for our success? Can you tell me?
Ignorance.
Yes.
It's unawareness.
Okay, that's part of ignorance. How can we use it for our success? It's a little bit tricky, but it's very
We fall
simple.
in ignorance and we look that we don't repeat.
What?
We fall in ignorance, we are in ignorance, and then we know, okay, and we are fallen, and then we look that we not again fall in ignorance.
Yes, that's good.
We see that it's not nice there. And we
Oh,
want to come outside.
yes. Oh, this is recorded. I will write it down. This is wonderful. You see, I always learn from the people who come to my seminars. Always something new, some new dimension. So this is such an amazing thing. It's not what I want to say. It doesn't matter. It's a wonderful thing. How can you use ignorance for success? You see that it's not nice there. Okay, you remember?
Yes, I wrote it down.
Yes, good. That's very intelligent. You're a very good student. So, we can use ignorance for our success, apart from what two of you said, by starting to learn. Because if you become aware that you're ignorant, that means you need to learn something. And you start learning from all kinds of sources. I mean, nowadays, internet you have everything there. So to realize that I need to learn, I need help from someone who knows. I don't know. When you say I don't know, the greatest minds of this planet have admitted that they know little. The greatest fool of these planets were very proud that they know everything and beyond. So this is how you can use ignorance for your success. Yes, Teresa.
Maybe if we can control our thoughts, but we can control what we write on paper. And I'm a big fan of writing down what I think or what I want to think. And we can write goals, everyday goals, like very little goals, like doing something good for someone, like every day. And then we can do it and we feel like we are better then. And make new goals and every day, like step by step, getting better without setting the first goal, like go back to God, that is my first goal. Like little steps who take you to your final goal. And yes, and I love to write, and this is like I talk to myself nicer when I can put it on paper, and then I read what I wrote, and then I can say, what were I thinking this day? And so I can get better and think better. Yeah.
So this is what you wanted to share.
Yes.
I must admit, you have stolen one of my most powerful tools that I was keeping for the end. I wanted to share. Writing refines your thinking and your inner dialogue. So I recommend it, highly recommend it. Writing letters to others, writing letters to Krishna, to Prabhupada, to your friends, confidential, to your coaches. and just writing a diary, reading it. When you read what you write, you can see what is real, what is not. It's really amazing. And there is a technique called free writing. Have you heard about it? Free writing? No? It's an amazing technique. I have a book about it. It's called Accidental Genius. So you take alarm clock, put it on 15 minutes, and just write anything that comes to your mind. Anything. Foolish, horrible, beautiful, creative, any kind of thought for a certain amount of time, and then go back and look for the jewels. Look for the jewels. You can also have a topical free writing. You take one topic and just write everything about it, and you can discover so many things that you're in your mind at the God from within, the inner guide is giving you actually amazing intelligence through writing. You don't believe that I have written this is so good, or I don't believe I have written this is so horrible. So to this, and your journal has Prabhupada picture. That's even better.
This is my poem book.
Oh, okay, wonderful. You also write poems.
Yes.
In English?
Yes, only in English.
Will you publish them?
I don't know.
You
yet.
can read one.
Well, I can. If you send it to me, I can tell you that they can be published.
Okay. Well, I think I have to learn a lot. I always wrote Maya poems, and now I write Krishna conscious.
Yes, that's good. But don't lose them. Also type them on electronically, because then you will publish a book.
Yeah, I'm not on electronic as like Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah, but you can write it in a Word file and save it.
Yes.
Or maybe he can type it if he likes. Okay, so any other points or questions before we move on? I am keeping for the end some powerful tools. One thing I want to mention, when you observe your inner dialogue, you can certainly choose how your mind makes excuses. This is a big, big thing for inner dialogue. Excuses. You know what is excuse? Yeah. So this is something we want to eliminate from our inner dialogue. We have to catch ourselves making excuses for anything in life. For example, if you have said to yourself, I'm going to walk every day, minimum half an hour, and you don't do it, what are your reasons? These reasons are technically called excuses. So what are your reasons? Oh, I was tired and I was distracted and so many people came. Do you want to live a little bit longer? Yes, I want to live longer. So this means you have to walk. Srila Prabhupada was an example of this. So once one doctor told, not even to him, but to his disciple, and he overheard it from another room, the old man should walk, because Prabhupada had heart problems. And Prabhupada heard it once, and from that day we have so many recorded morning walks. Practically till the end of his life, until he was super weak, he would walk for about an hour, maybe sometimes more, sometimes a little less, but he took it so seriously. And you may say, why Krishna wants him to walk? He's a pure devotee, he can only sit and preach. Krishna wanted him to walk because the body needs to move, material body. He has gotten a material body to preach as a vehicle. He has to walk. He has to follow all the laws that we have to follow. He has to eat. He has to sleep. Although he slept little, ate little, but still he has eaten. And he had to walk. But he used the walks to preach. So there was double benefit. We have morning walks. Amazing. I mean, also when you walk, have you noticed that when you walk, your thoughts are better and your inner dialogue is better, isn't it? When you walk. Especially if you walk in nature. When I walk in nature, I get great ideas and I write them down. Sometimes I record them. when I come back, I feel, wow, this is so good. So walking is also very good for inner dialogue. Now what is very good for inner dialogue also is talking to people who are wise, who are your friends, who are well-wishers, who have your best interest in mind, who have world's best interest in mind, listening to such people, talking to them. And also, what is now, this is something for me, maybe for you it's not new. For me, I'm discovering a system of coaching called Time to Think. And if you're interested, you can approach me or write me. This, to me, is real coaching. It's a coaching of the future. Everything else that you find in this world is a mixture of coaching and something else. Teaching, consulting, therapy, counseling, but it's not pure coaching. Pure coaching is this Time to Think system where you don't give advice. So, what is good for inner dialogue based on this system is that you have someone who listens to you with attention and you think aloud, you talk. And when you listen to yourself and you have a certain amount of time to think and to speak and to express it to someone who listens to you very attentively with interest, then you can see the quality of your thinking and you can really improve your thinking and your inner dialogue. And I'm still not giving you my top tool, but do you have any questions? I mean, you can share what helps your inner dialogue, if you have been ever thinking about it, if you have been aware of it, if you have wanted to work on it. How did you decide to come here? You saw the title and you were a little bit interested. Why?
Very important.
Yeah? So you have been thinking about this before also.
Yeah, it's very important to control this mind, because it should not, we should control it, it should not control us.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a special amount, a certain amount of energy during the day that we can use, and we can give it for the positive things or for the negative things.
Mm-hmm.
And one time I was angry because I had to pay so many bills. I was angry. I said, "Oh, I have to pay all these bills," and I had to pay them anyway. I had to pay them, but I can choose how I feel before of paying them.
Mm-hmm.
So I can just pay them because it has to be done, or I can lose good energy by saying, "Oh, I have to pay the bills." Or something.
And
Yeah.
what you
So
have chosen?
certain amount of energy, and you can use it for the positive.
You have chosen to feel differently about it? You
Mhm.
practice this?
Mm-hmm.
Are you a yoga teacher? Or
No.
what is your occupation?
Bhakti yogi.
Okay, good. I think you have a potential to be a coach because you're already coaching yourself. To be a teacher, or maybe not yoga teacher, but life teacher or success.
I'm working in a job where I can use these tools. So.
What job? If we can.
Betreuer for
With refugees.
Yeah, I work with refugees.
You counsel them.
Kind of. I work in a camp where they live. Try to.
Okay,
support
okay.
them.
So you work with people. That's very nice. Any other? Yeah.
I have one for my godbrother, Sutapa Prabhu. Maybe you know.
Yes.
And he's very advanced in what he gives a class in Vrindavan for 3-4 days. Very nice class. But 1-2 weeks before, he writes also articles, and he writes about the topic that is some realization that he makes at the moment, that the circumstance, they are always bad. We are in the material world, and a main thing that we have learning here is to tolerate the bad things, because in this material world it's no, how do you say, it's never always good,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a very big thing to tolerate.
Mm-hmm.
So in that circumstance,
This is Shastric. Toleration.
it's the
Titikshava.
main topic of the Bhagavad Gita.
Karunika, yes, Sukhrita Sarvadehinam. However, this toleration approach can put you in a martyr mindset. Martyr? Yeah, you're
Oh, yes.
martyr. So you are like, sacrificing and you're tolerating because you have to become a saintly person and like this. But imagine if you choose to see differently, to see every problem as an opportunity to grow, to learn, to see every problem as a personal challenge that God is watching you. What are you going to do now? And you can look at Krishna and say, I know you're watching me. Now I'm going to react in a way that is pleasing to you. So this can be even more dynamic than just tolerating. Also, if you tolerate, then you might think, well, I'm superior, I'm tolerating, and they are not tolerating. I'm better. So the mind has so many tricks. Of course, you can become puffed up also if you become positive. you can think, oh, I'm such a positive guy, I'm a motivational speaker, nothing can shake me. This is also a danger. Therefore, we try to think that I'm just trying to be a servant. I'm just trying to have a mindset that will help my service. I don't want to become falsely proud about anything. In any case, Krishna is giving me everything and intelligence. Give him credit. So when someone praises you, you're so calm, Prabhuji, nothing can shake you. Then you just do like this. If anything is good about me, it's his credit. I am very weak. Or if there is no Prabhupada's picture, you bring your book and say like this. Yeah. And then you are free from the danger of pride and you are protected. But we have to... Tolerating also can be stupid. Because some things we shouldn't tolerate. For example, Krishna Premarupa Prabhu was talking about surrender the other day at the end of the class, and the discussion developed. And I said, to me, surrender means to stand up for something, against something that is wrong. Because in your comfort zone, you can just sit and think, oh, someone else should do this. And I gave an example. Mother Guru Seva, she was complaining to me that one either guest or visitor or a congregational member was standing in front of Prabhupada. Prabhupada couldn't see the deities. Okay, it was full, but still he could move at least a little bit. And she asked him, so sorry, this Srila Prabhupada Murti, you out of respect. And he didn't want to move. So if I would see that, I would push him. This is completely wrong. He making a heavy offense, standing in front of Prabhupada like this, because I don't know what he's thinking. So this is the situation where we have to surrender. Arjuna had to fight. He had to stand up against what is wrong. He had to fight, and that was surrender. Surrender was not to say, I'm going to be Brahminical, I'm going to be peaceful and soft and gentle and tolerate this nonsense. Krishna said, no, this nonsense you shouldn't tolerate. And Haridas Thakur had to do the opposite thing. He was tolerating, beating and everything that they did to him. So his role was different. But in the case of Arjuna, you don't tolerate. So toleration has different aspects and different traps that you can also get. Okay. Anything else? Yeah.
So I think sometimes we have to stand for what we believe, our principles,
Yeah.
even if all around us don't think like us, but we have to be true to ourselves. And that isn't always comfortable, but I think it's something we have to do.
Yeah.
Because we have to be true to ourselves.
To die for the truth.
Not
But you see, if you're sure that what you believe in is also God conscious, then you can die for it. But if you're not sure, it may be false ego. So it's important that what I believe in is true to God, or like this. then you are protected. Even if you die, you will, be resurrected. So what we stand for should be really something that God says is truth, not that we think is truth. That's the difference. In the self-help world, they are teaching us that we are the main doer, and the universe will help us. But in Krishna consciousness, we know that the God is the main doer, and we want to help Him by serving Him. There is a big difference in this whole approach. Like the law of attraction, they say if you believe it and conceive it, you can achieve it. And this is simply not true. If higher forces don't approve it, you will never achieve it. This is our understanding. So, yes, anything else? Let me see, it's 6:20 almost, so we still have some time until 7.
Is the arti going to be at 6:30?
Yeah, if any one of you want to go, you can go. It's in 10 minutes.
If possible, I can go now.
Yes,
Yeah.
you can go.
You said that you had a Facebook page as well.
Yes.
So the Facebook page, what is it called?
Gita Seva. 2 words. There is this verse at the big on the profile, cover picture from the Gita that I mentioned at the beginning. Anudvega Karavakyam. Speak words that are truthful, pleasing, beneficial. And because you will not hear this last part, I'm recording. If you like, you can get a recording.
Is this?
It's about this is mine. Yeah.
Yeah.
This guy doesn't look like me, huh?
So this is your
2013. Yeah.
This is your name, Prabhuji.
No, my name is Akrura Das,
Sakura.
but this is my Facebook page name,
Oh, okay.
and I like to call myself servant of the Gita. So
Okay.
Gita saved my life. I have Gita coaching also page. So.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Before you go, I will mention what it is. We have a choice map here. It deals with questions. So the most powerful tool for improving our inner dialogue is changing the quality of the questions we ask ourselves. And now we will speak about it for the rest of the session and maybe do some little practice.
And if I have any questions, I can send you a message?
Always. Yes.
Okay, thank you,
24/7.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
So how many of you want to go for Arati? You?
Together and come home again?
No, if you go, it will be, 7 o'clock.
Oh, okay, I know.
At 7 I have to go. So if you will stay, we will have a 5-minute break. I want to give you a few gifts.
Can I help you or?
No. So please, let's have a